Hey everyone, quick thing before we dive in. I was looking at my analytics and it turns out most of the people watching aren't actually subscribed. See this? Way more views than subscribers. If you're enjoying the videos and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow and you'll never miss new uploads. Alright, let's get into it. One moment, I was free diving off the coast of Mexico, pushing myself further than I should have. There was the familiar euphoria, the dangerous siren song of depth that every diver knows. Then the creeping darkness at the edges of my vision, my body betraying me as nitrogen narcosis took hold. I blacked out at 60 feet. I should have died. Instead, I broke the surface gasping, salt water burning my throat, blinded by sunlight that seemed too bright, too close. When my vision cleared, I found myself in a perfect circle of deep blue water, surrounded by limestone cliffs. Not the open ocean where I'd been diving with my team. "Hey, you okay there, buddy?" The voice came from a small boat nearby. A stocky man with a wild beard peered at me with concern, hand extended. His Hawaiian shirt was almost comically bright against the blue backdrop. "Where am I?" I managed, my voice raspy. "The blue hole," he said, as if that explained everything. "I'm Boncho. You're the new diver, right?" I wasn't, but something told me to nod. "Great timing. Boss is waiting for you at the restaurant. Let's get you dried off." As Boncho pulled me aboard, I caught sight of something in the water below, a darker blue extending downward, impossibly deep. The boat's engine started, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from that perfect circular darkness. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Boncho followed my gaze. "That's where you'll be working, starting tomorrow." "Working?" His laughter was hearty, but hollow. "You don't remember signing up? The currents must have knocked you around good. Don't worry, it happens to most newcomers." The shoreline approached, a small beach with a wooden dock and a ramshackle building with a neon sign, Bancho Sushi. Behind it rose a dense jungle that seemed to press in from all sides, trapping the little establishment between water and wilderness. "I don't understand. I was with my team off Cozumel. We were doing a documentary shoot. I need to call them." Boncho's smile faltered slightly. "No cell service out here, friend. But don't worry, you're exactly where you need to be." Inside the restaurant, a tall, thin man in a pristine chef's coat waited. His posture was rigid, his face stern beneath a mop of dark hair. "You're late. I'm the owner. You can call me Chef. There's been a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm a documentary filmmaker. I was diving. You were diving. And now you're here. That's how it works." He gestured to a server's uniform hanging on a nearby hook. "You start tonight. Boncho will show you the staff quarters." "I can't just—" "You can, and you will." Chef's voice remained even, but something in his eyes stopped my protest cold. "Everyone who surfaces in the blue hole has a purpose. Yours is to dive and to serve. Accept that, and things will go much easier." That night, I served sushi to tourists who laughed too loudly and ate too eagerly. They didn't question why this remote location had customers, neither did the other staff. A quiet woman named Piana, who managed the bar, and a dishwasher whose name no one spoke. In my tiny room behind the kitchen, I lay awake listening to the gentle lapping of water against the shore. It sounded like whispers, like promises. Sleep came eventually, but with it, dreams of sinking deeper and deeper into blue darkness, searching for a way home. Morning arrived with a knock at my door. Boncho stood there, holding diving gear. "Time to earn your keep. Chef wants sea urchin and octopus for tonight's menu." I followed him to the dock where a small diving boat waited. My protests had faded to a dull acceptance. Something about this place made alternative options seem distant, impossible. "Have you dived the blue hole before?" he asked as we motored toward the center. "No." He nodded, unsurprised. "There are rules, important ones." "Rules?" "Markers on the way down. You'll see them." He began checking my equipment with practiced hands. "Today,
You only need to worry about the first few. Don't go past the third marker." "And if I do?" Bancho's hand stilled. "The last guy did. We don't talk about him anymore." He forced a smile. "Ready?" The water was impossibly clear as I descended. Schools of vibrant fish darted around me, unbothered by my presence. Corals in colors I'd never seen before clung to the circular walls of the blue hole. It was beautiful, serene, until I saw the first marker. A simple stone tablet embedded in the wall at 15 meters, its surface etched with words that should have been eroded by water but remained perfectly legible. Rule 1. Bring something up. Below it, smaller text explained, "A shell, a fish, a stone, it doesn't matter. Surface empty-handed, and the ocean will take something instead. First your memory, then more." I almost laughed. It seemed like a joke, a tourist gimmick. But as I continued downward, the pressure building in my ears, I felt a change in the water. A tension, an awareness. Something was watching me. At 20 meters, I found the second marker. Rule 2. Leave something behind. Start small. A coin, a knife, a glove. This one gave me pause. Leave something behind? I checked my gear, found a diving knife strapped to my calf. Without fully understanding why, I unsheathed it and let it sink. The knife didn't fall as it should have. Instead, it hovered for a moment and then drifted downward with unnatural slowness, disappearing into the blue. At 30 meters, I found the third marker. Rule 3. Do not look back after passing this marker. You will hear bubbles, feel something brushing your fins. If you turn, you'll see yourself, pale, bloated, staring. It will follow you upward. Bancho's warning echoed in my mind. Don't go past the third marker. I hovered there, torn between obedience and the compelling urge to go deeper, to understand this impossible place. A sound behind me, bubbles just as the marker predicted. Something brushed my fin. Everything in me wanted to turn, to look. I didn't. Instead, I spotted an octopus nestled in a small cave nearby. With practiced movements, I coaxed it into my collection bag. For Rule 1, bring something up. As I began my ascent, the sensation of being followed intensified. Something was behind me, matching my pace, its presence cold against my exposed skin. I kept my eyes fixed upward, counting my breaths, fighting the primal urge to look back. When I broke the surface, Bancho was waiting, his expression anxious. "You made it," he said, relieved as he helped me aboard. "Did you think I wouldn't?" He took the collection bag, examined the octopus. Not everyone follows the rules their first time. You'd be surprised how hard it is not to look back. What happens if you do? Bancho's eyes shifted to the water. Kiana looked back. Ask her if you want, but I wouldn't. That night, as I served plate after plate of fresh sushi, I watched Kiana. There was something off about her movements. A slight delay, as if she were following choreography she couldn't quite remember. When she caught me staring, her smile didn't reach her eyes. "You went diving today," she said during a lull, not a question. "Yes." "How deep?" "Third marker." She nodded, her fingers unconsciously touching her reflection in a polished serving tray. "That's where I stopped the first time, too." She leaned closer, voice dropping. "But you won't stop there forever. No one does. The blue hole calls you deeper." "I just want to go home," I admitted. "Home?" The word seemed to confuse her. Do you remember it? Your home?
I opened my mouth to describe my apartment in Miami, the documentary team I worked with, my dog waiting with a neighbor, but the details slipped away like water between fingers. Faces blurred, names escaped me. "I'm forgetting," I whispered, horrified. Kiana's expression softened with something like pity. "Rule 1. You brought up the octopus, but there was something else you were supposed to bring, wasn't there? Something personal." I thought of my dive watch, still on my wrist. Had it been there when I arrived? I couldn't remember. "The blue hole always collects," she said. "If not what you offer, then what it chooses." The next morning, Bancho brought me diving gear again. This time, Chef himself stood on the dock. "4 markers today," he said. "We need a special fish that swims at that depth. Bring me one with bioluminescent spots, electric blue." "And if I don't want to dive?" I asked, a final resistance. Chef smiled thinly. "Everyone who surfaces in the blue hole must dive again. That's the nature of this place. But how deep, how quickly, that's your choice." It wasn't really a choice, not when my memories were fading, replaced with an aching emptiness that only the water seemed able to fill. The first 3 markers were as before. I brought a sharp coral fragment to satisfy Rule 1. I left behind a weight from my belt for Rule 2. I didn't look back at Rule 3, despite the louder bubbling, the more insistent tugging at my fins. At 40 meters, I found the 4th marker. Rule 4. Resurface only when called. The water will go calm when it's time. If you rise before then, you'll break the surface into black sky, no land, no stars, and you won't find your way back. I hovered there, conserving oxygen, scanning the reef for the bioluminescent fish Chef had described. Minutes passed. My gauge showed dwindling air. Anxiety built with each breath. Then I saw it. Electric blue spots pulsing against silver scales. I moved carefully, corralled it into my collection bag. But the water hadn't calmed. If anything, it grew more agitated. Currents pushed and pulled at me from all directions. My instincts screamed to surface, to escape the mounting pressure. Resurface only when called. I fought the panic, forced myself to wait. My vision narrowed, lungs burned. The edges of consciousness began to blur. Then, suddenly, stillness. The water went preternaturally calm, as if the entire blue hole had taken a breath and held it. It was time. I ascended, careful not to look back, feeling the presence behind me growing more substantial with every meter. When I broke the surface, the sky was normal, blue, scattered with clouds. Bancho's boat waited. But the look on his face told me something was wrong. "You were down there a long time," he said, hauling me aboard. "How long?" 3 days. I stared at him, uncomprehending. "That's not possible. I had enough air for an hour, maybe less." Bancho took my collection bag, examined the glowing fish. Time works differently past the 4th marker. Chef was getting worried. Most don't last that long their first time. Their first time? At the 4th marker. "But you did good." He clapped my shoulder. "Tonight, you'll serve this fish to a very special guest." The special guest sat alone at the best table, wearing an expensive suit that seemed out of place in the rustic restaurant. His face was familiar in a way I couldn't quite place. When I served him the glowing fish, prepared raw with Chef's special sauce, he looked up at me with eyes that reflected blue light, though there was none.
"First time past the fourth marker?" he asked. I nodded. "I remember my first time. The fear, the confusion. I cut into the fish with precise movements. It gets easier. By the sixth marker, you hardly remember there was anywhere else before this."
"I don't want to forget," I said. "Of course you don't." His smile was gentle but empty. "No one does. But the blue hole requires sacrifice, memory, identity, purpose. Small prices for what it offers in return." "Which is what?" "Freedom." He ate a piece of the glowing fish, and for a moment his skin seemed to turn translucent. "Of a kind." That night, I dreamed of home again, but the faces were even blurrier, the locations jumbled and wrong. I woke with tears on my face and the certainty that if I didn't find a way out soon, there would be nothing left of me to save. In the kitchen, I cornered the silent dishwasher, the one whose name no one spoke. "Is there a way out?" I whispered. "A way home?" He paused in his work, soapy hands dripping onto the floor. For a long moment, I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, barely audible over the running water, "The bottom. If you reach the bottom and follow all rules, you will leave the blue hole forever." "How many markers are there?" He held up all 10 fingers. "Have you tried?" He shook his head, returned to scrubbing plates with mechanical precision. "Why not?" When he looked up, his eyes were like clouded glass. "Because I broke Rule 8. Now I can only speak what the currents have already said." Before I could ask what he meant, Chef appeared in the doorway. "5 markers today. We need a special coral that grows there. Deep red, shaped like fingers." His eyes narrowed at the dishwasher, then back to me. "And don't listen to ghost stories. Everyone thinks there's a shortcut. There isn't." But I knew then what I had to do. Dive deeper. Find all 10 markers. Follow the rules, no matter how personal, how terrifying the cost. It was the only way back to a life I could barely remember, but desperately needed to reclaim. Each day brought a new dive, a new marker, a new rule to follow. At the 5th marker, I took another diver with me, one of the kitchen staff who had been there longer than anyone could recall. We didn't speak, didn't look directly into each other's masks. I felt his presence more than saw him, a shadow in my peripheral vision. Rule 5. You must not dive alone. If you have no companion, the water will make one for you. Do not speak to them. Do not look directly into their mask. If you do, you'll surface as them. At the 6th marker, I caught a fish, a strange, pale creature with too many fins. My stomach growled at the sight of it, an unnatural hunger that seemed to come from outside myself. Rule 6. Do not eat what you catch below this marker. Hunger will gnaw at you. You will smell cooked food in the currents. If you give in, you'll taste only salt and bone. You'll never stop swallowing. I resisted, though the hunger followed me to the surface, haunted me through the night shift, made every plate I served a torment. At the 7th marker, I saw a light below, brilliant, beckoning. For a moment, I forgot everything else. My body turned toward it automatically, drawn like a moth to flame. Rule 7. If you see a light below you, do not follow it. It will look like safety, a beacon, a flare, even the sun itself. Swim toward it, and you'll find yourself deeper than when you started, lungs burning, light shrinking away. I forced myself to turn away.
to focus on the marker itself. The light persisted in my vision, an after-image that wouldn't fade. At the 8th marker, the water began to speak, not in words, but in sensations that formed thoughts in my mind. It spoke of peace below, of belonging, of becoming one with the blue depths. Rule 8. At this depth, the current may speak. Do not answer. Do not repeat its words. Those who reply are never the same. I kept my thoughts still, my mind a blank wall against the seductive whispers. I understood now why the dishwasher could only speak what the currents had already said. He had answered, and part of him had been taken. At the 9th marker, the water grew warm, unnaturally so. Through the blue haze, I sensed movement, vast, ancient, patient.
Rule 9. If the water grows warm, stop moving. Do not swim. Do not breathe too deeply. Something vast is passing nearby. It does not see you if you remain still. I froze, suspended in the warm current. My air gauge ticked down, my lungs strained. But I didn't move, didn't swim, barely breathed. A shadow passed below, larger than anything I'd ever seen, its edges impossible to define. Not quite solid, not quite liquid. It passed so close I could have reached out and touched it. I didn't. When the water cooled again, I continued my descent. The 10th marker was different. Not stone, but something that looked like glass, reflecting my face back at me in perfect detail. The text swirled across its surface, changing as I watched. Rule 10. The final marker. You must give yourself to your reflection. When you surface, your reflection will not follow. Place your hand against the water. Let it take your likeness, your voice, your movements. It will rise back to the surface in your place. It will walk, breathe, and live as you. You will finally be free to leave the blue hole. Below the marker, the blue hole ended in a perfect circle of darkness. The bottom, at last. The way out. I hovered there, understanding the final choice. My reflection watched me from the glassy marker, its eyes hungry, waiting. To leave, I had to let it take my place. Let it rise to the surface wearing my face, living my life at the blue hole while I... what? Disappeared into that perfect darkness below? It wasn't freedom. It was exchange. I placed my hand against the reflective surface. My reflection did the same, our palms separated by the thinnest barrier. I felt a pulling sensation, as if something essential was flowing out of me into it. My reflection smiled. I didn't. The transfer complete, it turned and began to ascend, following my bubbles upward. I watched it go, feeling strangely hollow, incomplete. Then I turned to the darkness below and swam downward. The bottom of the blue hole opened beneath me like a mouth. I passed through, expecting resistance, pain, death. Instead, I felt nothing. A moment of absolute silence, absolute stillness. Then sound. Traffic. Distant voices. I broke the surface of water that shouldn't have been there, gasping and coughing. "Hey, you can't swim here!" A park ranger stood at the edge of what appeared to be a small decorative pond in the middle of a city I recognized. My city. Miami. I dragged myself out, soaking wet and still in full diving gear. People stared as they walked past. "Sorry," I mumbled to the ranger. "Got disoriented." He frowned, but moved on after warning me about public disturbance laws. I made my way through familiar streets to my apartment building. My key still worked. Inside, everything was as I had left it, except my dog didn't bark in greeting. The neighbor who was supposed to be watching him had no recollection of me when I knocked. My documentary team had completed the project without me. My name wasn't in the credits. My bank account still worked, but coworkers looked through me when I visited the office, as if I were a stranger. The final rule had been both truth and lie. I had left the blue hole forever, but at the cost of leaving behind more than my reflection. I'd left my place in the world. Some nights I dream of blue water at a sushi restaurant perched between ocean and jungle. I see myself serving plates of exotic fish, diving deeper each day, following rules written in stone. In those dreams, I'm happy. I belong. And sometimes, when I look in mirrors or still water, I think I see the blue hole reflected back at me, a perfect circle of darkness, calling me home. If you reach the bottom and follow all rules, you will leave the blue hole forever, but it never promised that leaving would be the same as returning home.